I'm getting really close to my third year of business, and I've gathered lots of lessons. And if I think about how I was at the start and how I am now, I generally cannot think how I've got this far. Especially since my company consists of helping other founders to run their company and reach their goals. I've seen tons of different companies in tons of different niches, and I've learned from some horrible mistakes, to be honest, that completely destroyed companies. And on the opposite side, I've seen small changes that made hundreds of thousands of dollars. In this video, I'm not gonna focus as much on the tactics, because I've realized, and this is lesson one, that 99% of the tactics are completely useless unless you have some good foundations and you have the right character in order to make them work. I'll give you an example for my first point, which is one of the first people I've partnered with, which is when basically my company barely started. We had a list of tactics and systems we implemented into this company. We worked together for months. We got him to make 30K per month or something around that, and then we stopped working together. It did lower a bit towards the end of the partnership. That's also why we stopped. And then he got to like 20K. Then once we stopped working, we stopped talking, and after I think it was 1 full year, close to that, 11 months, I contacted again because I just wanted to know how he was doing. Got in a call with him, and he told me what he was doing, and he was doing the same exact tactics, everything, copy and paste how we told him 1 year earlier. He just kept doing them every single day, more and more based on how much he scaled with his company. And at that moment, he was making, I think, 90K per month. Maybe, and the only reason why I was not making more is because he was on the process of hiring new closers, because he had so many calls, so many leads that they didn't know how to handle them. So he was on the moment of the biggest breakthrough of his business, and he was making 90K per month, all from the first tactics we gave him 1 year earlier. But that was not because of the tactics. That was because he succeeded in sticking with those tactics, with those methods for 1.5 years. That's something that most people don't know how to do and can't do. I've worked with people where we had better tactics, better systems, because obviously the more you go on, the more you learn, and the better you become, that were less effective, not because the tactics by themselves didn't work or work less, but because you don't give them time. People don't give them time. They don't have the patience to sit down and do something for a full year and get the results of that action. Just because you did something for even 6 months and it didn't work, doesn't mean that it doesn't work. The biggest lesson that you can learn is from his content, which is the reason why I'm starting to do this right now, is because I also want to learn that lesson. And I obviously, want a brand, I want to help people, the other things. But content is the one that teaches you the biggest lesson on this, because you realistically cannot get famous in 1 day. It happens, obviously, it does happen, but it's unrealistic, unreliable, and almost statistically impossible. You need to publish for months, minimum, years, 1 or 2 years at best, sometimes, 5-6 years. There are people who get famous on their second year of business. People get famous after 5 years of content. If you look at the big, not I wouldn't say all of the biggest, but some of the biggest, you can think about Logan Paul, you can think about Mr. Beast. It took them years, 2, 4, 5 years to get to a decent level of fame, and then obviously they kept compounding of that, and content is the biggest teacher for this, because the same exact thing works in business. It's just that we don't realize it, because there is no one to kind of praise you for doing the same thing every single day. You don't get views, you don't get anything. You're just sitting at your desk and doing every day, sending always the same messages, recording more and more ads, and you almost have no reward for repeating the same thing. And that's what makes it hard, but also what makes it worth it, because no one is doing it. So if you are doing it, you are very likely going to win. You have to consider that if you want to be the 1%, and I'm stealing this from Alex Ramos, if you want to be the 1%, you need to be in a room with 100 people and you need to beat all of them. The easiest way for me to think about this is actually a physical contest. I'm into martial arts, so the best way for me to kind of frame this in my mind, and you can do your own version, is actually beating 100 people. Like, you get 100 random people, and you gotta beat all of them in a 1v1. That's hard. That is really hard. And, I don't know if I could do it. Some people can. There is, professional martial artists who can. Maybe I can beat 100 random people. But the concept of that, it's just way more, how can I say this? It's more useful than just thinking I want to be the 1%. Because if I just say, I want to be the 1% or the 0.1%, that just, that's just a number. That means nothing. But if I think that I have to beat 100 people, and if I want to be the 0.1%, 1,000 people, then that's different. Especially in entrepreneurship, if you say that you want to be the 1%, you don't have to beat 100 random people. You have to beat 100 entrepreneurs. Then you have to beat 1,000 entrepreneurs. Then 10,000 entrepreneurs, and so on. But likely for us, you that you're watching this video, me, or anyone who is really serious about their business, the only way to win is if you stick with something for a very long period of time, even though it doesn't make sense. Because people don't know how to do that. So by definition, if you do that, you are beating all of them. At the start of my business, I took, I think, 50 or 60 sales calls before closing my first client. I didn't know how to speak English really well. I still don't know right now. So you can imagine how was it 3 years ago, or no, 2 years ago. I didn't know how, 3 years ago. I didn't know how to speak English really well. I didn't know how to sell at all, because I was just a random dude who decided to start a business, and the wrong business, because I was helping agencies to do some stuff, because to get clients or something, because I got influenced by Iman Gazzi, Charlie Morgan, all of these people, which, nothing against them, just, just their influence me to, I want to help, I want to be like them. Which is the wrong step if you're just starting a business. So it took me 60 sales calls of closing absolutely no one. I think it was 2 months of taking on one sales call per day, and nothing. I could have stopped. I wanted to stop. At the same time, I was doing tons of outreach, because my outreach sucked, so I had to do so much fucking volume. I was working around 10 to, I would say around 10 hours a day, 9 to 10 hours a day. And I was sending 400 messages per day myself, doing the sales calls 1 or 2 a day depending on the day, and I was helping 3 clients because I wanted to get some experience. Now, that was really hard, that was really annoying and really stressful, because especially since my outreach sucked, my English was not the best, I got a lot of people to make fun of me, to straight up insult me. I got people trying to fuck up with my business. I had a guy book every single slot on my calendar for a full, it wasn't a full year, but it was 6 months of my calendar just fully blocked for no reason. Stuff like that really annoys you, really wants to make you want to give up. But I didn't. Kept going, and after that period, my business basically, I can say blew up, because I got from 0 to 9k in 1 month. Just 0 to 1k, bam, to 9k, sorry. Like that, I kind of figured it out, because I spent so much output, so much time, so much input, so much time on the business, on failing, on doing things wrong, that all of that work made me figure out what was my, what was the constraint. And in that case, it was, I took 60 sales calls. After 60 sales calls, even though I don't speak English really well, even though I'm not the best salesman, you get an idea on how to sell. I sent probably more than 100k outreaches through different accounts, through different platforms, probably more than 100k. After sending 100k messages, you kind of figure out what you're doing wrong. So all of that compounded in the span of 6 months, I would say, and I started taking sales call only in the last 2 months, because at the start I sucked so much more that I couldn't get a single sales call for the first 4 months. But that's another story. After all of that, it compounded in 1 month. I figured it out. Figured out how to sell a lot better. I figured out what actually books sales calls. and I got to my first 9K. Then from that, I started this. I kept going that business. I got to fixed 10K per month. I started to help a friend of mine to run his business. We got him to 30K. I was like, fuck, I can actually help other people better than I can help myself. So started to run my business and help other people. And eventually, while growing my business and growing other people's businesses, I went all in into growing other people's businesses. Now, that period was horrible. And you're gonna have that period, everyone has that period, maybe you're lucky enough not to have it, but you're likely gonna have it. Maybe you already passed it, maybe you have to do it again. It happens that you have to do it multiple times, Like, those periods are the one that makes you grow the most, so you have to realistically think that you have to do them, I would say a maximum of five times. They can last anywhere from 3 months to a year, sometimes more, but I think that's the most common, time span. If they last more than a year, then you're either trying to build $1 billion company, you have to put so much input that is like out of this world, or you're doing something really wrong. I don't know what to say, because if you spend 6 months or like 3 months to a year working 10 hours a day with as much input as you physically can, consistently without ever stopping, and you are not making more money than you were doing before, or you're not reaching your goal, then either your goal is too big that realistically the time span you need like a decade, which is I want to have $100 million a year company, it's $1 billion a year company or more, because at that point you need way more than these periods. You need your whole life on that company. I'm not saying that from experience, because obviously I'm not a billionaire and I'm not even a millionaire, but I'm saying it from the amount of effort that I've seen people put into making 100K per month, 200K per month, and to think how much effort it will take to get to 100 times that or more. It's obviously there is leverage. There is the fact that the more money you make, the more leverage you have, but you still need input to get to that leverage. Once you have it, that doesn't mean that your work completely disappears, because now you just have new work. The work never ends. If you're running a company, the work just never ends, unless your goal is to have a consistent income and then go live in a random country where you're making 20K per month. You can probably keep that steady for a while, but that's lesson one: to be consistent. The second lesson, and this is something more in life than in business, is I'm gonna instead of saying it, I'm just gonna quote Bruce Lee, a kind of obscure quote. It comes from his book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and you should read it. It's really good. The quote is something along the lines of, a goal without a mean is an illusion. Becoming is the denial of being. Okay? Now, we're going to focus on the second part of that quote, even though the first part is really important. But I want to focus on the second part because most people get this wrong, where they're trying to change their habits, their attitude, behavior, whatever you want to change. Now, that part is really important because it's becoming is the denial of being. Okay, most people, when they set a goal, they're like, oh, I want to be that person, I want to get that, I want to be the person who gets that, but you don't focus on being the person right now who gets that. I don't mean, manifesting it, I don't mean fake it till you make it, I mean, in order, for example, to become a professional bodybuilder, for me, I will have to go to the gym 6 times a week. If I choose natural, then I probably stay natural. If I choose an actual, Mr. Olympia type of title, probably I'll have to take steroids and whatever. But let's say I want to be a professional bodybuilder. Okay, my goal is pretty big, so I have to go to the gym 6 times a week. Then I have to eat this diet. I have these periods of bulk, these periods of cut. I'm gonna go. I'm aiming to have my debut professionally in 4 years, 5 years from now, and I have to list all of this down, and then you focus on the action, on becoming already the bodybuilder. How would the bodybuilder who's already there or who's getting there act? Not in the sense of I want to be a bodybuilder, therefore I'm gonna go to the gym, which is is the first step. That's the action, but more in the sense of how will that person have their day to day? How serious will the person who is a bodybuilder be? And that's the same thing for an entrepreneur. How serious would I need to be in order to achieve that goal? What's the actions? What's the behavior? And while you're trying to change your behavior, don't focus on I'm the person who wants to stop drinking. Sorry, don't focus on I want to stop drinking. Focus on what would that person who really wants to stop drinking would do. And that's the secret, because most time we want to stop something or start doing something, but we don't think about what you actually have to do in order to do that. And the way you can implement this in your life is when you have a behavior that you want to change, which you likely have, maybe you just think it in your mind, you're like, fuck, I really want to stop doing that. And then you can rationalize it. You don't put it down, you don't think too much about it. While you have that thing in mind that you're probably thinking a couple of times a day, maybe you have written down, maybe you have it just in your mind, maybe it's something that you keep doing, and you really can't stop doing it, but it's really annoying you. Whatever it is, you should just think, what will the person who's really trying, who's really serious about stopping in that action will do? Maybe it's drinking, maybe it's throwing all of the bottles of whatever you have out, and I don't know, throwing every single bottle out, stop going out to bars and whatever for a long period of time. Maybe you gotta sacrifice 3 to 6 months of not going out with your friends to because they're gonna drink. And you just sacrifice it. You don't go out. You get another habit in the meantime. Then after 6 months of not drinking, you go out again. You're more resistant. You're not completely clean, but you're more resistant to it. Same thing for smoking. Same thing for whatever habit you have to do. You have to think, you want to change. What will the person who wants to change that habit, really wants to change that habit, what would he do? And that goes for behavior as well. I want to be more kind. Well, what's the action to be more kind? What would a kind person do? You wouldn't try to be more kind. You wouldn't even try to be kind in the first place. You will just be kind. When you go out, you compliment people randomly. You, maybe if you see a homeless person who's really struggling, you go buy some food and you give it to him. Whatever it is that you have to be in order to be more kind, small actions. You open the door, you give up your seat. It's those actions. Becoming kind is not I want to be more kind, or it's not only a state of mind. It's mostly the action that you do. That's 90% of it. Even if in your mind you think you're a bad person, you might be kind and you don't even realize it, because everything is breaking down in actions. Being more charismatic, even if you don't think you're charismatic, you might be charismatic because you do certain actions. You smile and greet everyone when you enter a room. You remember everyone's name as soon as they say it. And next time you meet them, you remember the name, so you can have a conversation with them. You have conversations based on other people's interested in your own. You listen more than you talk. It's things like that make you charismatic. If you do all of those things, even if you don't think you're charismatic, you're going to be charismatic. If you think you're a bad person, but you do all of the things that make a kind person, you might still think you're a bad person, but it doesn't matter at the end, because you are a good person. You're a kind person. And the list goes on with quite literally everything. And this is probably my favorite thing that I learned in business, because it quite literally changes your life in every way possible. Even if for one day, for some reason, I want to stop doing business forever, I still have this lesson which can help me in anything I want to do, anything. Because whatever I need in order to achieve that thing, it's solely based on behavior. And if I can change my behavior easily, then I can do everything. Even right now, let's say I'm in the worst situation possible. Can't work, can't do anything, I'm really struggling, I have no money, the worst situation possible that I can think of. I don't have an house, I'm almost going homeless or something like that. There is a set amount of behaviors that will get me out of that situation. One of them might be, working on my business. How do I work on my business? Well, I probably need to eliminate 5 habits that I have right now that are stopping me from working on my business. Maybe I'm playing video games, going out every day, and blah blah blah. How can I eliminate those 5 habits? What will the person who eliminates those 5 habits do? Well, I don't want to play video games anymore. Well, I'll probably, first of all, let me eliminate all of them. Second of all, let me eliminate everything related to video games. Third of all, let me get that time that I used to spend video games, let me put it on an habit which is simpler than work if I really can't work and I'm lazy, but still better than video games. Maybe it's an hobby, real quick, just to get used to being productive. Maybe it's going to the gym. And eventually, with time, with a couple of months, I'm going to be able to transfer that discipline from video games to drawing, going to the gym, whatever is your good habit, to working. Then is the same thing goes for going out. I always go out with the same group of friends. Well, the first thing I should do is tell them, hey guys, I'm trying to be more serious, invite me less. they're probably gonna invite you less. If they don't invite you less, then you probably shouldn't be friends with them, or you should be more clear about your goals. It's all about behaviors. It's all about actions. The way you change what you do, you have to think about what a person will do and what the person who's serious about changing those habits will do. Because if you only think about the person who already has it, and this is the thing I have against like manifestation and like that kind of fake it till you make it, is you are only thinking about the person who already made it, but that person who already made it is not doing the same thing that the person who really wants to make it. It's a completely different story. You can't copy what Jeff Bezos does in order to build a business. Because right now his business is already built, it's already gone. You need to copy someone who either has just recently built this business or is trying really hard to build this business and is succeeding. You need to copy someone's actions where they are in the process of achieving what you want to achieve, not someone who's already achieved it, because he's going to do actions of someone who already achieved it, which are not the same ones that you need. This is the best one by far, in my opinion. Now, the third point is the company that wins the most is the company that wins with its customers. And you can see that in a lot of big companies, either while they're growing the company, in the periods where they were growing it, like Amazon, or in actually out there right now, still like Amazon. For example, Amazon has a very fucking good customer service. They give you your money back no matter what, don't matter what the situation is, you just get your money back. And the reason why that is great is because the customer always wins, and that way you know that if you spend money incorrectly on Amazon, you're gonna get your money back. That leads you to spending $20, you get them back, but now you can trust them to spending 40. And if you get those 40 back, now you can trust them to spend 60. Are there people who abuse that? Yes. But the amount of people who don't abuse it, it's so much higher than the number of people who spend time abusing it, that Amazon doesn't even bother to fix it. It doesn't care, because the amount of trust that you create by basically being fooled by your customers is not in the terms of, you're getting scammed, so more people will scam you. It's on the sense of you're so honest that you're giving the money back even if you're being scammed. So now everyone can trust you with their money. That's why no one is scared to buy stuff from Amazon. And if you know Duolingo, the language app, one of the reasons why it became the biggest language app in the world, and it grew so fast so that it started, is because the whole starting point of Duolingo was, I think it was 4 years of just customer feedback, getting customers getting people for free on the app, a certain amount of beta testers, and keep improving based on what the audience wanted. So every change in Duolingo was something that the audience wanted. Every feedback that they got, or things they changed, or things they removed, was based on what the customers wanted. And when the app was released, it was quite literally what everyone wanted, because they built it based on what everyone wanted. So it's crazy to think about it, because it's so simple that it's almost like why is it so simple? Why is no one doing it? If you build a product based on what people want, perfectly based on what people want it. I know, crazy. Crazy concept, The only thing you ever need in order to build a product, not the only thing, but 99% of the things you need to build a product is just customer feedback. That's why I'm a big fan of giving products for free. I'm a big fan of, at the start of course, not forever, I'm a big fan of doing hundreds of calls with your customers. If you have hundreds of customers, if you have 10 customers, do 10 calls with your customers, but contact all of them. And no matter the stage of the company, by the way, no matter the size of the company I've worked with, I worked with people who were making 500k per month from other sources, or the main source I was helping them with, and still, to that point, my first advice is get on at least 50 calls with your customers. You have to do that. It's necessary. It's the most important thing in your business. Is you need to get that fucking feedback. Because you need to improve your product based on what people want. I also like to do it with people that are non-customers, because then you know what is missing on your product for them to buy it. Because people who are already your customers and people who want to be your customers have different problems. People who are already your customers likely want something that fixes the next problem, because the problem already got solved by your product. I hope, at least, if you have a good product. People who are not your customers want to solve the problem that your product solves, but they have something in your product that is not convincing them that it will solve it, or that is not worth the money, or that is not worth solving as much. There is many things that you need to figure out by talking with them. You need to, if you win with a customer, you almost basically need nothing else. Let me give an example. Right now, a client I'm working with is a swim instructor, okay, and he's really big. His company has been, his social presence and his company in the swim instructor space, he helps the swim instructor, has been going on for years. The way he built this company is purely based on trust. Low prices, really good product, and it's a really tight like community. He gives products for free, gives refund left and right, doesn't really matter. If you don't like it, he gives you, more gifts plus your money back, plus makes you go whatever you need. It's a very like honest, really close community, really built on trust. Okay, and he's been doing it for years. That's also why he has so much trust. And the guy, he has so much experience as a swim instructor, I think like 30 plus years. So he has every single layer of trust that you need. He has proof, so trust that like people trust him that he knows what he's talking about, because he has like 30 years of experience as a swim instructor. He has like trust in terms of people know that he's honest, so people can trust him with their money. He has trust in the terms of the product is good, because he will deliver, and there is so many more layers based on the amount of testimonials he has and so on. And you need to build that kind of proof, because this guy sold, I think it was $70,000 of a full retreat in one post, or I think 2 posts, like $70,000 in 15 minutes, because he writes the post with ChatGPT, or less honestly, like 5 minutes. And the reason why he can do that, and he can replicate that every couple of months, and by the way, the reason why he made $70,000 and not more is just because they sold out. If he had more spots, he would have sold more. Probably, I don't know, it's really hard to predict how much. He had a limited amount of spots, but he sells a lot and really easily, okay, because of the amount of trust. He doesn't even need to tell people. I was talking with him about selling a new retreat, selling out a new retreat that we're organizing, and one of the things like that really surprised me is these people don't even care who is actually speaking at the retreat, what is happening at the retreat. They just want to know how much is it and they'll buy. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. that requires an incredible amount of trust, where you don't even need to know. Obviously, like we did do all of the stuff to sell as much as possible, because it's still good to do. And even though he has this amount of trust, adding more stuff that makes it easier for the customer to buy is always a bonus. So you need to do marketing, you need to do all of those things. But if you suck at marketing and you don't want to learn it, you just need to do what he does. Be completely honest, give refunds almost no matter what. If someone has a problem, give them free stuff, solve the problem and get more upset about the problem than they are. Plus, if you fix the problem, it's a bonus, because now no one else is going to have it and your product becomes even better. Deliver as you promised, or more. Be honest and friendly with the people who buy from you. So like, not like a relationship from someone who buys a product and then that's it. But when someone buys your product, they're actually a friend of yours, because they're buying your product, they're trusting you, especially if the company is small. But honestly, no matter the size, you can find a way to do this. And you are gonna win. 100% of the time, you cannot lose if you do this. This is not something that is necessary to do 100%, because there are companies for just horrible companies who sell anyway because people can't afford to buy their product, because they have like almost a monopoly, or just they're so good with marketing that people buy anyway. But that's a way you can do it. I think I like about this is that if you do this, you cannot fail. It is impossible to fail. 100%. It's one of those methods that is not the only one. This is the most secure, guaranteed, and is the only guaranteed method in business, in my opinion. There is almost no guarantee in business, but in my opinion, from my experience, one of the few, if not the only guarantee in business is that if you make your customers win, you are going to win. And if you base your company on making your customers win, you are going to win. And if you base your product based on what they want, they are gonna get it, because that's what they want. And that's it. That's the video. Have a good day. Bye. Mwah.